Yo, in this video, I've come up with a couple tips and tricks that should help a lot of you who are considering starting flight training soon, or maybe you've already begun flying. These will still help. Just things that I've thought of along the way on my journey in flying. So I'm already at 950 hours now, and I started with ATP flight school, so that's my story. But if I could go back and restart, I would implement all of these tips before I had started my training. So let's get into it. Number one is going to be get your written exam done before you start whatever rating that you're going for. So even if it's just your first private pilot rating that you're going for, start to study the written exam and try to complete it beforehand, because that's going to set you up to have a lot more knowledge than every average person that starts their flight training and just jumps right into it not knowing anything. It's going to help you with a way smoother transition into your first lesson. You're already going to know about airspace, weight and balance, pre-flight, all these different topics that are going to make it a lot easier and less challenging to hop in the plane on day one, and you're going to be a little bit more confident because you already know these topics and you can apply them in the air. And it's also going to be something that you won't have to worry about later down the line when you're getting close to your check ride. A lot of people like to cram it in right before the check ride. Instead, you could be really studying for the oral portion of the check ride and have your written way behind you. Tip number two is probably the biggest one on here, and it is that I highly recommend you get a flight simulator before you start your training. Only if you're 100% sure and fully committed that you're going for your license, then you should get the flight simulator. If you're still a little iffy on it, do a couple more discovery flights and then figure that out later. But the reason that I recommend this so strongly is because me being a CFI, all the students that I've flown with, out of all of them, the ones that are going home and using Microsoft Flight Simulator and coming back in for their lessons, I could see an immense difference from those who are only able to come in for flights, once or twice a week, and then they lose a little bit every time and I have to remind them about certain things, compared to those in the flight simulator. These are people that I've been able to solo as soon as like 15 hours, and them taking their check ride between like 40 and 50 hours, compared to the average person where it's more around like 70 hours and solo is around 30. So don't let the fact that they cost a little bit more money scare you away from getting one. I've had a lot of people ask me, why would I get a simulator for $2,000 when I could just get $2,000 worth of more flights and build your hours? Well, the flight simulator is going to make it so that you only have to pay for about 45 hours to get your private license, compared to 70 hours, which is extreme amount more money to get your license. So big difference in that. And once you're done with the flight simulator and you've got your private and you're happy and you're just going to go fly for fun, you could sell it for 2/3 of the price, list it on eBay, make some of your money back, or you can keep it so you can practice for your future ratings, which would be even more beneficial, and then that makes the investment almost nothing at all. Now, the third tip is something that I wish I had done differently, and it's basically don't just immediately jump straight into the first school or program that you find online. That's pretty much what I did. I just looked up how to become a pilot, and then boom, ATP flight school pops up. I signed up like instantly, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, after I did my first discovery flight. What I should have done is looked at all the different Part 61 flight schools in my area, gone online, looked at all the different programs around me. I probably could have found like a good 20 to 30 since I'm in the LA area, and definitely it picked a better path than ATP flight school, which is a lot of money. So I really recommend look at all the airports near you and go to all the different flight schools, get a discovery flight at all of them. Then you can pick which is the best fit for you, because maybe it's the location that's a problem, maybe it's the flight instructor that you flew with on your discovery flight that you don't like, or maybe it's just the school itself, it doesn't feel like a good fit. So make a list and pick the one that's the best match for you, because that's the way that you're going to enjoy your flight training the most, is if you pair yourself with the correct flight school. And there's a lot of sus flight schools out there that can scam you or waste a lot of your time. So obviously doing this method will help you avoid those, and you can pick the best. Next tip, number 4, is going to be develop a weekly routine with your instructor, and base it around your work schedule. So obviously if you're going to a Part 61, you need to be working so that you can be funding the flight school. So come up with a really efficient work schedule that you could still squeeze in about maybe 2 to 3 flights a week would be the best number to keep your training moving along at a really good pace. Some people come in once a week, and it's not usually enough to be able to retain everything that you learned the last lesson. So I really recommend you aim for about 2 to 3 times a week for about 2-hour sessions with your instructor, and that'll really help you keep everything fresh in your head so that you can not be moving on the next lesson and not having to dive back into topics from the last one. And this is also where the simulator comes into play. If you're able to sim between all of these lessons, you won't be forgetting anything for your next one, and you can move through training a lot faster than most people. One more thing to add is figure out the weather patterns that are at your airport. So maybe you have fog that rolls in the morning because you're near the coast, so you should be scheduling kind of midday, sometime around noon. Maybe you're at an airport that is kind of in a deserty area with a lot of winds, so you should maybe be scheduling more in the morning times so that you can avoid those winds, especially early on in the training when you're just trying to learn the basics. So figure that out, schedule the best time for whatever weather you have in your area, and that'll help you get your training done a lot more efficiently because you won't have to cancel as many flights. And a lot of the students that I have are canceling flights on the daily because of the fog that we have at my airport. So that's just one situation for you. You don't want to be that person that's getting canceled every time because of the weather. So pick your time slots wisely according to your work schedule so that you can still be making money to pay for the training, and according to the weather patterns so that you're not having to cancel every single day and not getting as much training as you should be. Last tip that I have for you guys is schedule your check ride as early on as you can in your training. I know that might be kind of difficult because some of the examiners are only accepting you if you're fully eligible with all the amount of hours that you need for your check ride. But there are a lot of examiners out there that I've paired up with students that take them right after they've soloed or way earlier on in their training. And those are the students that have been able to keep studying and hit their eligibility hours and then be able to take their check ride within the next month. The ones where we wait until they're fully eligible and then schedule the check ride can be waiting for up to 6 to 8 months. And for most schools, it's either the school or the instructor that gets the check ride date scheduled for their student. But at least at my school, for example, I have a good 12 plus students that I'm working with right now, and all of them are kind of approaching the end of their training at the same time. It's almost impossible for me to get all of them check ride dates within the next month. That's why some of them are going to be waiting longer than others, up to the 6 months that I just talked about, which is why you want to take things into your own hands as the student and just start shooting as many texts to all the DPEs in your area as you can, and maybe you'll get lucky with one and you can actually keep rolling through your training into the next phase, instrument, commercial, and get through your rating as quickly as possible. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys, and I hope those tips and tricks help you out. I highly recommend that you consider each one of them, especially the ones where you can kind of get ahead of yourself before you start your training. It'll really help you propel once you start going for your private a lot faster than the majority of people who come in not with no experience at all. So give those a shot if you can, and let me know down below if there's any other video ideas that you guys want to hear about. Kind of running out of videos ideas over here, so that would really be helpful, and I'll literally make a video on anything. Just let me know what you want me to talk about. That's it for the video. Peace.